All right. Well, the Daytona 500 was this last weekend, and Super Bowl for NASCAR. Essentially, they start off with their biggest race, and it was quite the entertainment piece. I got my buddy Rick here with me to dissect this race. What's going on, man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Well, it was an interesting race to say the least. Let's kind of just start at the beginning here, and we will unpack this thing. So, first and foremost, it was kind of weird. They started a little early because rain was coming. They knew it was coming, and so I guess they wanted to get the race started, which I thought was kind of weird, right? Like, hey, let's get this started for 15 laps so that we can take a 3-hour break. That was kind of odd.
Right.
And I mean, I get it, but if you're a spectator, it's almost you would have almost rather seen it be like, hey, let's just start this thing at 6 p.m. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, so they got themselves underway. The 19 car, Chase Briscoe, had the pole, and you saw right away nobody was waiting, and I believe that was because of the rain impending. When I was watching it live, honestly, I didn't even realize that the rain was coming. I'm not in Florida. I don't know. So, they were very aggressive. What was it, 10 laps before they went 3 wide?
Oh yeah, it was looked like traffic jam immediately.
Yeah, but what we saw early was the 2 and the 22, the Penske cars. They were on the high side, and they were making moves. Strategy there, I guess, was to just make sure that we're in good position when the rain comes, right?
Yeah, yeah. And when the drivers got out of the car, actually, but after the rain delay, they're like, "Oh, we were just kind of driving around. We have no idea what our cars feel like." I think Ryan Blaney was interviewed.
Yeah.
What did you do during that rain delay? Did you get off the couch? Did you?
A bit, yeah.
Disappointed?
Yeah, I mean, I hung on for a little while because, in normal fashion, they always tell you, like, oh, we're going to, we're going to get the racing in, we're going to be right back after this commercial break, and the jet dryers are going, and,
Yep.
and they string you along. And then next thing you know, you're watching last year's 500. Like, what am I doing here?
Oh, I know. That's when I was like, okay, enough of this. I'm rotting here, waiting
Yeah.
for NASCAR.
Right. Yeah, and so we did see 2 different strategies, right? I mean, right up front, the Penske cars were like, we're going to the front because we only got 15 laps, maybe, and then you had some other guys that were just parading around, like, hey, they're 3 wide, they're gonna get in a wreck up there, and we're gonna miss it, and then be in position after this rain delay, and so there was 2 different things going on there, and what's right, what's wrong at Daytona, who knows, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, you can go from the back to the front in 10 laps. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, you didn't really have to make a call at that point, I guess, but there was some different strategies for sure.
yeah, for sure. But the theme of, I don't mean to get ahead of you, but the theme for, the race after the rain delay was quarter throttle trying to fuel save. I think that was a big deal for this race.
Yeah, you definitely saw after that rain delay the radios like, hey, stay 60% throttle, stay 50, and it was like they're not even racing out here. But anyways, okay, so we saw real early, we saw what Chase Elliott was also very capable of. He, I think, started 10th or 11th, and he led for a little bit in that first thing, and you're like, okay, he's got it. And then you see him kind of just get shuffled back. And I guess you don't want to be over aggressive. I think he proved his point, you know what I mean? And he knows the rain's coming, so why push the issue? I'll just drop back now. I know what I got.
Yeah, and Joey Logano says, I like what he says about Daytona or track play, super speedway racing, excuse me. If you're not trying moves, you're not trying to make passes, you're not learning. And you need it for the end of the race. You got to know what you got underneath you.
Yeah, you definitely saw some guys trying to take advantage of like, okay, what can I do? These guys are kind of timid, so they're not going to race me hard. Let me see what I got, what I can do. But yeah, okay. So then you get to the 3 hour delay, 3 hour plus. I don't know exactly what it was, 3.5 hours maybe, but it was a lot, and then it seems like it's very common in the 500 to have a rain delay. I know it's their Super Bowl. We're going to have it at Daytona. It's Daytona. There's nothing like it, right? But I just don't like seeing the first race of the year have such a delay. Even Chase Elliott was like, why don't we just run these things at night, man? This should be a night race anyway, and I tend to agree with him. But I guess what I'm thinking is, it's not that much G-force of a track. Could you get a rain tire that they could race in, or is that just crazy?
I that might be crazy, Matt. I I don't
Just
know.
wishful
I have
thinking,
no
huh?
idea. Yeah. Maybe that's something the NASCAR could try at a mile and a half and see if we could develop that.
Yeah,
Um,
they definitely done it at road courses, right? They tried a little bit in the Xfinity series, and they're really slow, okay? But I mean, hey, they're racing. I
yeah,
think one of the things too is, even if they could figure out the tire and the G forces, the track would throw so much mist and rooster tails off the bottom of each car that you couldn't see the car in front of you, and you're drafting them. You know what I mean? So. And also, those cars are not made to have that much water up underneath them, the
absolutely. And
electronics.
if any sort of puddle or weeper, something like that, created a puddle on the racing surface on, say, a straightaway, uh, rain tire or not, I think you're going to hydroplane, you're going to lose control. And as Ryan Preece would demonstrate, that these cars are prone to go airborne. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know about a wet tire on a super speedway.
yeah. And I just got the message right there that North Wilkesboro ran rain tires. Now that is a short track, so quite a bit different. But I wonder if that could translate over. I mean,
And it was really cool.
I think it would be cool. I don't know if it's possible, but I don't see them going away from Daytona in February. So I don't know. Maybe that's something down the road in the future, different car. But
I don't know if any of y'all have been to Florida, but these showers, they just pop up. And Florida's just like this. And
Florida definitely does. Yeah, yeah.
in
Um,
summertime, it's just pop-up shower middle of the night. And
I've been in Florida when it happened, and it was like, it's 80 degrees and 275% humidity, and it's like, and next thing you know, it's sunny. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, big cloud storm moves over the peninsula and just dumps. I mean, almost
yeah,
flooding. So it's tough. I don't know what the right answer is, but maybe they could develop enough of a rain tire that maybe they could have started 30-40 minutes earlier. I mean, at least shorten it. That would be cool. And then you run your first run on those, and then now that the track's completely dry, now we go back to our slicks. I don't know. But just a thought, because it was kind of a bummer just sitting there, you know what I mean? And like, okay, I sure would like to watch some racing today. Anyway. All right. So after the delay though, it's pretty tame. And I mean, how could it not be, right? I mean, they got a very fresh track. There's no rubber on it, so everybody's just kind of tiptoeing around for a little while. I don't know if we expected anything else.
right, yeah. It's the fuel-saving game happening immediately because you got to hit those numbers. You want to be able to pit with your buddies. So I think there was a lot of that in that first stage.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the biggest parts of stage one happened towards the end when Joey Logano got that plastic bag wrapped around his grill.
Yeah,
Caused some
so
problems with stage
that's something I have that is like, yeah, definitely a big thing happened there. So it's tame stage one, and Logano gets the win, right? And Hamlin kind of little bad push there, and he kind of gets turned sideways, and so he ends up getting the thing. Well, then you got him, him starting to have those issues. Logano does, right? And where, he's like in the pits and what's going on with it. And it was just kind of weird. Anyway.
Yeah. my favorite part of that whole bit was when they showed the graphic. I forget what part of the car they're having trouble with, but I don't know a lot on the mechanical side. I really like watching cars drive in circles, but the describing how the plastic bag got to where it shouldn't have been and affected him and the parts they changed, that was incredible. And then to see him
Yeah.
drive back for points, I think
Yeah.
by the end of stage 2, he comes back to 8th, or is that stage 3? I can't remember.
We'll get there in a bit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll say this: we didn't know exactly what was going on in between stages there, right? Like he pitted a couple times. They were speculating, but nobody really knew. And then then stage 2 starts, and pretty quickly we get a pretty big wreck with Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain. Chastain took both of them took pretty hard hits. Not like day ending, but it's bumped up, so now your car's a little bit. I just got to say, man, Kyle Busch, since going to RCR, you remember the first couple months he was there and he got a win and he was doing good, and then it all just went.
Yeah.
It just went off the cliff, and it's like, what happened here? Like he's just and it's not. I would like to say it's just performance, but I think it's a slight lack of performance mixed with his driving style and the positions that he's in because of the lack of performance. Like sometimes I think it's over driving, and sometimes I think it's like he's just in the middle and getting caught up with drivers that he is like shouldn't be around,
Yeah, I don't know if the car is as good as he had at Joe Gibbs Racing.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah,
I
don't, and it shows.
And I might be a little bit biased here, but Austin Dillon is not a great driver. When you only got 2 cars on the track, you need both drivers to be really solid, because they're not sharing information. Kyle's sharing all the information with Austin because Austin don't know, and
Right.
so and I say I'm a little biased because I never thought he should have taken the 3 car. I think that was 1, too much to put on your shoulders, and 2, just it's kind of a spit in the face. And I know NASCAR doesn't retire numbers. I get that, but I feel like that one should be. Just my opinion.
Yeah, praise Dale.
Yeah, but then then it's like, well, who else and what else, and now we're gonna have 3-digit numbers, and I get it, but Kyle Busch has got to somehow change his luck, man. That's what it comes down to. It's tough.
It's super speedway, all about most of the time, I'd say, especially this race. You need some luck, and he doesn't have it.
He doesn't have it, and so that happens, And
it was really sad.
Yeah, and Chastain is he's considered a contender at super speedways. He's a good driver other places as well, but it really is like at super speedways he does pretty good, and so that kind of messed him up too. Like him or hate him, I like Trackhouse, that's for sure. But
oh yeah,
but anyways, and then Castro Neves gets collected, and boy, what a weekend he had. I don't know. What do you do if you're him? It was fun.
Four-time IndyCar or Indy 500 champion, Daytona 24 winner. I think 3 times. I don't know. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but
something like that.
He raced a lot.
He's got a resume
that weekend. Yeah, quite the resume. Platinum driver.
He raced at 3 races, and we were trying to remember if he ran trucks or Xfinity, and I think it was Xfinity, but he ran ARCA. He ran let's say Xfinity. Somebody will probably tell us we're wrong, and then he ran Cup, and he wrecked. Before halfway in all of them. And not always his doing, but it's just that's restrictor plate racing. And he left with a smile, but he's got to be disappointed.
Yeah, he's always got a very positive outlook towards racing, and that's kind of part of his personality, at least the public facing side of it. But it's got to be disappointing to show up. You've never been at Daytona in a stock car, and you're a part of the mess. And Matt and I, before we got on, we were talking about the ARCA race. All the cautions, all the wrecks, And yeah, Castroneves got caught up in all of them, and I wouldn't say any of the incidents, as far as I could tell, were on him. It's just, the
Yeah,
nature
some
of
some just
speedway
racing
racing.
incidences, and then some just like not being able to slow it down with the wreck in front of you. Just no luck at all. And
Yeah.
Daytona will do that to you in stock cars, so that's tough. And ARCA was bad. I mean, like I said, there was like 6 or 7 cautions before they even got to the halfway break, and half the cars are wrecked. And I mean, there's got to be some people that are just that are bankrupt over it, or at least going to take
Oh,
some time off to recover.
absolutely. The highlight, if y'all missed ARCA, I think was who was it? Cletus? What's his
Yes,
last name?
Cletus
Oh, his
McFarland.
interview.
That's not even
If you
his
haven't
real
checked it
name,
out,
by the way, but that's what he goes by. Yeah.
yeah, head over to SRN Facebook page. Matt posted it. It's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Oh,
Just
it's one of
watch
the
it.
best interviews. There's several of them. I only posted one, but it's a really
Uh,
good interview. It's funny.
yeah. One more thing on
Yeah.
Elio Castroneves. Sorry, not
Yeah.
Helio. Castroneves. Because he was provisional in the Daytona 500, they allowed one driver with exceptional resume to join. But because he was provisional, he didn't get a payout for the race, so he was out there racing for free,
Yeah. Yeah. He's just out
or
there
at least
because
the
he
team
wants
was.
to. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's still some money that they get from sponsors, and if he does a commercial or a ad plug, like they get that kind of money, right? That's like it's like the whole thing. Like you see Dale Jr. on his podcast, like you don't make any money as an owner in racing. Well, not from
Right.
the actual racing. That's what he's saying. Like, trust me, Junior, you don't have that big ass mansion and all them cars
Yeah,
in the garage for nothing, right? Like,
he's
you
actually
you
a
make it on the
helmets man.
sponsors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so after that, at the beginning of stage 2, after that caution, that's when we really started to see what was going on with Logano, right? He goes into the pits like back-to-back times. He's on the radio talking about the RPM won't go under 6,000. And my first thought was, so what, man? Like, hold her open, like,
Oh man, yeah, under
you know,
caution.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's gonna rev up, but no big deal, But obviously, that's gonna affect fuel mileage. It's gonna affect restarts, right? Because if you can't get your RPM down, just trying to get going, you could just spin the tires once you pop that clutch.
Very true.
So I mean, it's going to cause problems, and ultimately, after a couple times down, they changed it's the ECM or ECU. I think they call it the ECU. It's the engine control unit. So they changed that out, but then it has a misfire. Finally, come back down and figure out that they changed the throttle body, and that's when they knew a piece of plastic got in the throttle body and hung the butterflies open. Like, what are the chances of that?
And the fact that they found it, and I think they changed the throttle body in 80 seconds. I think
80
that's what they said on
seconds
the
is what they
broadcast.
said. Yeah, 80 seconds. That's wild.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just great work by that team to diagnose it and then get all those changes done and stay on the lead lap. I mean, that's hats off. I mean, that's crazy. My thought was, though, are you telling me that you don't have any sort of screening system for the air coming in? I mean, I know you can't run a filter. That's going to rob horsepower because of that. But, like, can't you have, like, a metal, like, I don't know, 1/4 inch by 1/4
Grill?
inch metal grill? You know what I mean? So the big stuff doesn't get in there.
Ah, yeah. Maybe that.
They
But
might
what
think
back
about
grill gets covered up.
They might think about it now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So anyway, but I mean, great job by that team, and then the other thing that we saw was Bubba Wallace had an electrical issue. He was talking about on the radio. They aired a little bit of it, but I didn't really hear, or they didn't really explain what it was. But anytime there's rain, there's always a car or two that has an electrical issue, and I don't know if they didn't get that thing covered in time or something like that. You know what I mean? It had to be.
Yeah. I might have missed that during the race, but I remember Harvick saying sometimes you can get like almost what feels like flat spots on your tires too when you're sitting there. I guess when the temperatures cool off and you sound like you're riding on triangles or instead of wheels.
Yeah, I think what happens there is, and I didn't hear that, but I think what happens is you got these hot tires from racing right now. You coming down pit road and you park it. Now that bottom part is compressed, and it cools down, and it kind of keeps that form until you get the tires hot again. And so that it feels like a flat spot, but it's just an indentation. So that's kind of, it's just part of the rain delays and rain. But Bubba, I mean, it didn't do anything to him. He was fine. You know, he kept racing. So no, nothing big deal there, I don't think, for him. Then we get to like 90, lap 90, you know, so we got, I think, 15 to 20 left in the second stage, and now we're all 3 wide. Now gloves are off. It's time to go because stages pay points, right? And so they're ready to go. It stayed that way for the rest of the stage, just 3 wide. No line could prevail, though. You know, normally you see that outside kind of prevail, but nobody was doing that.
To me, I thought this was the most exciting part of the race. Like, this was a classic Daytona 500, and yeah, they were really going at it. And yeah, whenever the stage breaks got towards the end, it made for great racing.
Yeah, that was I agree with you. That was my favorite part of it because it wasn't there wasn't a wreck, right? It was just good hard racing. It's like they're racing hard to get these stage points, but they know there's still another stage, so it's like controlled aggression, you know, not all out aggression, and it was just good racing. But it stays that way all the way, you know, all the rest of the way. Blaney ends up getting it with Logano recovering all the way back to the top 5 at the end of that stage. So his problems were taken care of, and he's competitive again. But he did have to go back in and replace the air box this time. so he just kept going down, replacing things. Not sure why the air box. I assumed that maybe it was like loose or they couldn't get something fastened on it. You know what I mean? In the previous change when they did the throttle body, couldn't get it hooked up. You know, something like that.
Probably. And I know during the stage ends, I know some of those guys are probably like, okay, I got to get these points now because I'm probably going to get wrecked out for the finish of this race.
Yeah. Yep. Then we get, you know, stage 3. Man, I mean, kind of a snoozer for most of it. You know what I mean? Like they're just, okay, you know, we just got points or we didn't get points, and now we're just waiting to get down to the last 20. And this just begs the question, like, do we need to shorten these races? I mean, if these guys are just going around 60% throttle, saving fuel, okay, we're not going to do tires, so take care of them. You know, I know when you pay for a ticket, you want a sustainable amount of entertainment. You know, you go to a football game, it's 4 hours. You go to a basketball game, it's 2.5 hours. You know, you want that time to feel like you really got to watch some racing, but I don't feel like they're racing.
I don't know if I agree with shortening the race, but I'm more leaning towards changing the package, fixing some of these issues that come with next-gen speedway racing.
Yeah. Or maybe the thing is to just maybe only have 2 stages. You know, I mean, I know that would be kind of really changing things, but, you know, I mean, at least it would keep them just, I don't know, then they would just be driving parade laps longer. I mean, I don't know what the fix is. I just know that, you know, you're sitting there for 30, 40 minutes in the third stage, like, okay, just waiting to race. I guess I can take a potty break. You know what I mean? Just, you know, because there's just nothing to do, you know? So it's like, okay, well, it's not
a hot take here, but bring back tandem drafting and let the guys talk to each other.
Yes. The talking to each other was wild, man. It was just so weird. I'm sure they loved it. You know what I mean? They could really work with each other then.
Right.
But ultimately, I think what they determined was, one, it's unfair for the larger teams, more people on radio. And 2, it's like it's dangerous because your spotter cannot key in when you're already keyed the mic, you know? So you could be talking to the guys on the inside line who, hey, we're going, give me a push, and then the guys on the outside go 3 wide and you don't even know it, you know? So
it's the chaos I think we need.
Yes. Want to finish with 7 cars at the end of it, you know?
Yeah. Trevor Bayne wins.
Yeah. So, inevitably in every one of these, though, right, there's going to be the big one at the end of the race. And this big one had a little controversy in it. The Logano and Stenhouse, man, I really give this one a 50-50 if you don't remember, didn't see it or whatever. 22 goes to the middle, and the 47 blocks, and they looked like they had it sorted out, but then the 22 did not settle, and he tried to go inside again, essentially making it almost like it would have been like a 4 wide, but there was nobody on the outside. Stenhouse wasn't going to let him have it. Boom, bang, pow. You know what I mean? They're wrecking at the front of the field. And this was for like 3rd and 4th. So, they wrecked quite a few cars. Who's at fault there?
It's all right. It's 15 to go, and they're second and third in their line probably. Yep. Stenhouse late block. I think that was dirty.
Super
that
late. Yeah.
Not cool. Not cool. Yeah. But Logano keeps going for it, and he had every opportunity to back out of that wreck. So I'm kind of agreeing with you. This is definitely a 50-50.
Yeah.
Started with one bonehead block and some bonehead moves by Logano that just kept cascading until you take out Ryan Blaney and Cindric and all the good cars.
Yeah, I mean, like the 8, the 9, the 4, all spun off of that. 8 gets it the worst, Kyle Busch, because he packs the inside wall. Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, okay, Stenhouse makes the late block, but he was in front of him. You know what I mean? Like, okay, it was really late. That was crazy, but they had it sorted. And then Logano's just like, no, I'm mad now. And that's typical Logano fashion, man. Loses his head under the helmet a little bit, is way too aggressive on the super speedways, and causes something. I mean, it's happened a lot with him.
Yeah, I could definitely see him losing his head. And as an iRacer, I definitely get this sometimes. Like, something doesn't go your way, you start getting mad, and then stupid moves ensue.
And then it just compounds itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually for me, when I'm racing, it's like I'll make a mistake and then my head's kind of out of the game. So like on the next lap or something, I'll overdrive a little bit or something like that. You know what I mean? But this was like bang, bang. He was like, that was kind of stupid. Here, let me be even dumber.
Yep. Watch this.
Yeah. And maybe he was expecting Stenhouse to bail on it because he got such a hard push and wiggled. He thought he was going to go up the track. I mean, it is split second, but Logano is at the middle of a lot of these, so take that for what you will. But I still call it a 50-50. It was both of them.
Yeah.
So they get back at it, right? They're back racing with 5 to go. Pretty nasty crash happens with Christopher Bell. He gets a hard push, and then that gets the 60 messed up sideways. I think it was the 4 that he came off of or something like that, or maybe that was the previous one. But anyways, the thing kind of hung in the air for a while and then ended up flipping over. And he's on his lid, and that's the second time he's done some barrel rolls at Daytona. So probably not something he wanted to happen for sure. Kind of scary with those, But yeah, the 6, the 5, the 9, all collected in that one. The 9 was in a couple of them at that point. So although he was strong early, there's just once you get that much, sheet metal damage and whatnot, there's nothing you can do. You just don't have the aero to compete. The question is, and we're starting to see this a lot more, is these compression hits. Where that one is kind of an upside down compression hit, but where they get airborne and slam back down, there's not enough suspension in the car to absorb that. What did we see 2 years ago? William Byron fractured his back on one of those. And it's not really something we thought of a whole lot, you know what I mean? And now it's becoming more and more, and I think it's this car. I think it's so low to the ground, it has so little suspension in it that it's just causing really hard hits on the ground.
Yeah, I think a big part of this is the flat underbody of the car, that diffuser element and the flat body. I mean, it's like holding a piece of plywood in the wind.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
Wherever it wants to go.
Yeah, and it held that car there for a second, and it tried to get back down, but ultimately couldn't. So that was pretty tough. I don't know what the fix for that is. I'm sure that NASCAR is going to be working on it or something. I just wonder if there's some sort of almost like a suspension that they could put in the seat itself, that has springs that, so they only crush, at a certain weight, so that it absorbs a little bit of the hit. I don't know. You would think that if that was possible, the teams would be doing it right now anyway.
I know I never thought about the upside down hit. I know I heard during the broadcast Kevin Harvick was mentioning like, oh, the worst part of these flips is actually when it flips back
Yeah,
flat on all four wheels
yeah.
again, and then you get that shock that goes up your back. It happened to Bowman, I think, in a dirt car. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's got to be terrible to just land flat on your butt. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And
Didn't
Priest said
Ty
this
Gibbs
was
did it
worse.
at Bowman, didn't he?
Maybe I
Ty
don't
Gibbs,
know.
I think it was under caution, and he tried to bump somebody, and his car
Oh,
jumped over and went up
oh
and smacked the
yeah,
ground. Yeah,
yeah,
and
that hurt.
wasn't it Harvick then too? He said it then too. He was like, "Dude, that had to hurt. Like, why were you doing?"
Yeah, and actually, in other forms of motorsports, I think, in women's Formula series, or one of those series over in Europe, a Formula series, a car would, get airborne and then land flat, and it can break the driver's back. And especially, these cup cars are really stiff too. They talk about stiff suspension and everything. I'm sure that's not doing any favors.
No.
You see when that next gen car head first or nose first into the wall, like that car is barely crumpling. Whereas, you watch Xfinity or truck race, those cars just
They just
disintegrate and
smash.
absorb all
Yeah,
that impact.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know. I don't know. But it. Anyways, so Ryan was fine. You know what I mean? Nothing, no big deal there. He was fine, but kind of a scary one. And then of course, so that's with 5 to go. So then of course we got a green white checker, and we know we're going to be crazy then. And final lap. They're rounding turn 4. The 11's on the bottom side, 3 wide, and of course, it just breaks out. And yeah, I mean, it's expected. You don't want to see it, but I mean, everybody behind second place is like, hey, 3 inches is a spot, and so
yeah.
you got to do it, and the biggest thing for me, my takeaway from that last lap accident was the inconsistency in the calls. If you saw the last podcast, I was talking about the duels where they threw a caution, 200 feet from the stripe at the finish, and that cost somebody a win, and now in this one, they didn't throw the caution, and it was even further. And the reason for the first caution was that they didn't want people racing through the crash to get to the finish to get a better finish. Well, then why didn't that happen in the 500?
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of is if you don't throw this caution like they have done previously, you're encouraging drivers to just full send through some of these incidents, and if they don't know if the caution is going to come out or not, you're going to be encouraged to just send the car through any incident on the last lap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's dangerous. You'll have some cars, if they do throw it, they'll be slowing down, and then if they don't, everyone's just gonna. It's chaos, and I didn't like the call either. I think
Yeah.
maybe show some consistency in the weekend.
From a driver's standpoint, the way they look at it is I equate it to UFC fighting. Okay, you could rock somebody, knock them down, and they're essentially out. But unless the referee comes in and says stop, you keep hitting them, right? Because your job is to knock him out. The ref hasn't said he's knocked out yet. So like as a driver, until the caution comes out, we're racing, right? And so from a driver's standpoint, like you just do what you're told. But from a NASCAR standpoint, this is a problem I have, is it's inconsistent and it seems reactionary. It seems like what they did was they got a bunch of flack for Thursday's dual race and then changed what they did for the 500. Now, in my opinion, and I mean, the league I run is so much smaller than NASCAR, but in my opinion, that is an absolute no. Like, you don't change rules mid-season. You don't change rules after an incident. Like, the rules are the rules. You know what I mean? I'm not tracking with NASCAR on this. I don't understand it.
Yeah, this topic, these sorts of topics keep coming up when in the world of NASCAR. There's this added factor, this entertainment factor that has sway over rules and regulations. And it's changed a lot about stock car racing in the past, I'd say 10, 15, 20 years. This need to have maximum excitement, whatever that is, that's totally subjective. I mean, to me, good hard racing like we had in the middle of the Daytona 500 was good racing and something would keep me watching every week.
Yeah.
But this entertainment factor, I think that might have had something to do with this decision to not throw a yellow, this inconsistency, I think.
Right. And who knows, in one of or the other races, like whoever was the race controller in charge of the lights and whatnot, like they might have made a mistake in one of these races, but they're not going to tell you that. You're never going to hear that, So I don't know, just wasn't the best ending. It kind of left a bad taste in my mouth after the end of the race. But at the end of it, William Byron gets the win, back to back for him. Great for him. He's in the playoffs. He's excited about it.
Of course. The 24 car gets to go back to the Daytona Museum. Isn't that where they parked that thing?
Yes, yeah. They were showing picture. He just got to see his last year's one this week. They were showcasing it at Daytona, and he got to check it out. And he said that's the last time he's going to see it, though. They're probably going to tear it down, and it'll be a different car, for later on in the season or something. But some other noticeable finishes here. Jimmy Johnson gets third. To me, that's a huge boost for that Legacy Motorsports team, that kind of merger between Petty and Johnson. He's not racing the car full time, but, just the prize money, the notoriety, everything that goes along with it, I think that's just a really great start to the season for him.
Yeah, Jimmy, that was so cool. And then his post-race interview, he was all smiles. It's basically a win for this team. I did not expect this. This total surprise.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
I was getting ready during the race. I was making notes, and I was getting ready to say, like, Jimmy Johnson just needs to hang it up. Like, he's tried to race with Legacy Motorsports last year, and it was dismal every single time. And I just don't think he knows these cars and runs these cars enough to be competitive in them. But at Daytona, anybody can really be competitive. So. Hats off to him. It's a good start for that team. Put some money in the bank and take some cool pictures for social media and whatnot. The next finisher was Chase Briscoe, and he finished fourth, but he's not going to get to stay there.
No, he has negative points in the championship now. They docked. I don't know the exact figures, but they took about. He's like negative 67 points. I
think it was like 120 or 150 points. Something. It was crazy. It was a lot.
Yeah.
That they took from him. So whatever he got, so I think he did get some. I think he did get some stage points, and then minus that out. So he's negative for the season. What ended up happening was he had a illegally modified spoiler, and you had a little information on that too, didn't you? A little insight.
Yeah, I saw some online speculation, so take this with a grain of salt, but I heard something about they managed to put the rear spoiler on in a way that when air would come over the car, it would actually flex the spoiler, so the spoiler would give to the air going over it, so therefore you'd have less downforce on the rear, and you could get higher top speeds, and it might explain why he qualified on the pole.
Yeah, so that was my when we were talking about it before, that was my kind of question, was like, well, was it like that? Do they inspect after you win the pole? I for some reason thought they did, but maybe they don't. And what would have happened if they would have found it then? They would have EOL'd him, or something. He would have started at the back, and who knows what would have happened to him. He could have been in any number of wrecks. So kind of interesting there, but he is in a big hole now. But the car showed pace, Daytona is kind of different. I would expect them to come out and do good at Atlanta, another restrictor plate track. So maybe this isn't the end of the world for him. I know he's happy to be in that ride with JGR, and hopefully it works out for him, because it did not go so well at Haas, but Stuart Haas, that is. So we'll see. The last one in the top 10 that is very notable is Justin Allgaier in the JRM 40 car. Chris Stapleton and the Travelers Whiskey guys were on that. I did not expect that.
Oh, yeah.
You just can't go to Daytona one-off. But the affiliation that Junior Motorsports has with Hendrick and just the backing that he has, you can't count him out. But they weren't super strong all day, and I don't know if Allgaier was just, it was like, it's our only car, don't wreck it, or what,
I imagine, well, I hope Dale would just say, go for it. Justin Allgaier is a great driver, so he's someone you can trust. I can't believe he's not a Cup driver, honestly. But yeah, I think the Dale Earnhardt Jr. Cup car is basically Hendrick Motorsports Light.
Yeah.
They definitely had a lot to do with that
They
car,
have a lot of
I'm sure.
affiliation. But, I mean, you see, you're not sure why Allgaier is not a Cup driver, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
At least my opinion, all right? So you see some of these guys. Look at Noah Gragson, okay? He was with Junior Motorsports, winning everything, wins the championship. He comes up, he's with, like, Stuart Haas or whoever, like just a mediocre team, and now he doesn't win anything. Justin Allgaier likes to win. I mean, he's down in Xfinity winning championships, winning races. I mean,
that's true.
Why?
Got a great car.
Yeah, I mean, him and Junior are tight. It's like I just don't see why he would. Yeah, okay, everybody wants to be like, I want to be a Cup champion. Yeah, well, how many people can say they're like an 8-time freaking Xfinity champion? You know what I mean? And tell me that you ain't going to have your buddies come over and those trophies aren't going to be impressive. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think. I think he's right where he needs to be. He's with a great team and he's winning races.
Yeah, if he truly loves it, not doing it for a paycheck in the Cup Series, I guess, huge respect for Justin Allgaier. I really like him as a driver.
Yeah.
One more finisher up here in the top 10, though. John Hunter Nemechek, another one of Jimmy Johnson's drivers, Legacy Motorsports. So that's huge for that team.
Yeah, I think he was pushing Jimmy at the end there, and got a great finish. And I think John Hunter is one of those two. Didn't spend a lot of time in Xfinity, and so it's like he's learning as he goes, And this is a great finish, confidence booster, right? So yeah, I'm really curious with this team what they're going to be able to do with them. How's it gonna play out? We'll see. Time will tell. So I kind of alluded to it before. Atlanta is next week. It's a shorter, but it's also restrictor plates. I think it's going to be a little bit more of the same. It's going to be a roll of the dice. You can't really say who's gonna prevail there or who's going to be strong.
Yeah, it's going to be more of the same, but I did see a photo online today of kind of a worn-out track surface. So maybe as Atlanta gets older, maybe some of this racing will change. You won't be able to, pack race wide open anymore. Our last race at Atlanta was incredible.
I think it's going to. I think you hit it right on the head, man. Because I think that as it ages, you're not going to be able to just hold it in the corners. You know what I mean? You're going to have to let off. You're going to have to give the car some room. People are going to kind of slide up the track a little bit. It's going to give it character. It's not just going to be the 2 and 3 wide pack racing like we see at Daytona and Talladega. So maybe it will be a little bit more interesting. I'm just skeptical because over the last few years it's just kind of been the same, and I don't like doing them back to back to start the season because you really just don't get a feel for who's strong and who's improved over the off season. You don't really know.
These poor mechanics and team members are working overtime to fix all these wrecked cars. So
yeah.
I bet there's going to be some of that. But I am expecting, or I want Atlanta to be better than Daytona, and I think it has a good opportunity to do that. And hopefully that track changes up some of the racing. It's pretty good, and Atlanta's all right. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, well let's do our and this was your idea, by the way.
Yeah,
we're gonna do the entirely too early season predictions.
All
right. So first off, the championship for the season. Who you got?
All right. So mine changed after just recently, actually, due to recent news of Chase Briscoe being docked all these points. He is going to be champion, and it's going to start all of this drama about the playoffs again.
Really?
Yeah.
Chase Briscoe wins the championship in the car that Truex couldn't do it in. Oh my gosh! All right,
he's got an opportunity to win every week in that car.
Okay,
he's going to do it at the right times.
Okay, so where does Chase Briscoe get his win?
All right, so he's got to get a win. He won Darlington last year.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
let's
he can
say
do
he
it.
doesn't have to get a win, right, to get in, but it's going to be really hard. So if you got him as a champion, like,
yeah, he's got to win.
yeah, yeah.
So he needs to win to get in the playoffs, and then win like, because
So you,
he got docked some playoff points too. I think like 10
yeah,
playoff points. So he's got to
yeah.
win like 3 in a row.
So you think he's going to win it like Darlington or something like a short track?
Or yeah, he can sneak one of these super speedways too. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I got him winning a surprise win somewhere, and then
And then
coming
parlaying that.
alive in the playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
I'm
like
just
it.
doing this for the drama.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah. All right. Well, it's on tape now, so we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
So my driver. Okay. So my pick to win this year's champion is going to be Kyle Larson, and the reason I'm picking that is because I think he's one of the most talented drivers on one of the best teams, but I think he has historically, he started back. He took the hiatus. He came back with Hendrick, won right off the bat, right? And I think he thought it was going to be easy, much like Chase Elliott, win early in the career, get the championship. Oh, this is a breeze, right? And then like some bad things happen in his recovery. Well, it's been a couple years, and Kyle wins races. He's in the playoffs, but just not super competitive. And I think that this is going to be the year that you see him kind of mature as a driver, accept fifth place, instead of trying to, get third and wreck himself. I mean, he's just going to, I think he's going to just show a little bit more maturity and poise. And I think the whole feud with him and Hamlin has kind of calmed down. And so I'm looking for him to win like 3 to 4 races this year. And then just be solidly in the top 8 and do solid in the playoffs, and that's what I'm thinking is going to happen with him.
Yeah, that's a really solid pick, and I love watching Kyle Larson race. I mean, he's very exciting to watch. He is truly, I think, a cut above some of the other Cup drivers, especially at tracks where you got to ring it around the top, like Homestead or at Kansas, those sorts of tracks. He can get so close to the wall, and that is so much fun to watch. And he's always there at the end. I mean, incredible team, incredible driver. That's a solid pick.
Yeah. All right, so now what we're going to do is the dark horse to make the playoffs that probably shouldn't be there. Who do you got?
All right. Who do I got? Oh, man, that's a hard one. I didn't
All right,
think about
fine.
this.
I'll go first. All right,
You
and
go
you
first.
think about
You go
it.
first.
All right, so my dark horse pick to go to the playoffs is going to be Daniel Suarez. Okay, now, not saying that him and Trackhouse they're not good. Okay, but he's just kind of on that fringe of competitiveness where you could say, hey, he's definitely going to make the playoffs. I just don't think he's there. I think he's on that cusp. But I think that with the addition of road courses this year, because I think we have 6 or 7 now, I think he's going to take one of those races and get himself in. I think that's what's going to happen. So that's kind of my dark horse. He's going to win on one of those road courses that's going to get him in and probably go out in the first round.
Yeah, he did it last year. That's totally a dark horse pick for sure. Yeah. My initial instinct was to go with someone like SVG, but I know he's going to win a road course this year.
SVG only has so many races, so I don't think they're going to let him in.
Is he full-time Cup?
No, I think they said he's only got a handful of races.
Is he?
Because with Trackhouse and the 87 and the 88 are only going to do so many races. But that does raise a good question. What if one of them wins?
Right. Well, I think nothing happens. It just keeps going.
I would think that they have to disqualify him for not racing full-time, right? I would think.
Yeah. So you would. I don't think you'd be eligible for the playoffs or something like that. Yeah. But I could have swore he was a full-time driver. I don't know.
Oh, we're gonna have to find out. We're gonna have to find out
Please.
for the next podcast so we can set the record straight. But I feel like it's only a number of races. But hey,
all right,
who knows?
Real dark horse then.
Okay,
I'll
go.
With Kyle Busch. I'll go with Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch. Okay.
Kyle Busch.
All right.
Struggling. He needs to break his winless streak. I'm rooting for him, and I want him to win something.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's funny to hear Kyle Busch as a dark horse, but he kind of is. I mean, I get it. He just hasn't had the competitiveness. Last year he snapped that 19-year winning streak. And basically, Yeah, I mean, you would think it's entirely possible he misses the playoffs. So I'd say that's a dark horse pick right there. I like it. All right,
For sure.
all right, that's on the record. Okay, moving on.
We'll see. Remind me when.
Yeah. We'll watch this back in a few months and be like, dude, we were so far off.
I won't be. I'll be right on it.
Yeah. All right. I like your confidence. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Southern Racing Network, the Truck Series. Last week was Dover. So that's race number 6, I believe. And it was, I love short track racing, man. It was a great race. The rivalries are starting to show up, and I use the word rivalry, but also it's just the competitiveness is starting to come out. Guys are quote unquote kind of taking the gloves off. They're ready to race now. We know each other. It's starting to get fun.
Yeah, the personalities are coming through. We're starting to get to know our competitors. Like, it's been a blast, and rivalry and competition is what racing is about. So of course it's going to happen, and just shows that we have a culture. We have a group of guys who want to win, and it's healthy.
Yeah. What was your, I gave my take last week on the Foothills and Flex Motorsports, their rivalry, their competition, and the contact between, Chris Phillips and Bobby Hall. What did you think of that watching it back?
Oh, I was so shocked. I mean, I gasped. I was laughing, honestly. It's like, what a move. What a move. I saw some. They're really competitive. I'm not going to place blame on anybody, but, there's some blocking going on. That shows,
Yeah.
They just, they got to win. And hopefully we can make smart decisions and, get some, not, carry these grudges over week after week. I think that's where maybe things start to be an issue, is if, we hold grudges and things like that. But, Bobby Hall is a winner, and he has won a lot of races. Chris Phillips has been there and won all the short tracks for us. So
yeah,
those two aren't going to yield. I think that's a title battle there.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. This is shaping up as a title battle. It is these two guys, and I think that as long as they keep it clean, which I think they both are going to. I don't think either one of them wants to wreck anybody. I think they're going to keep it clean, and we're just going to see some really good competitive racing throughout the season. And I'm looking forward to it, even though I don't get to drive anymore. You know what I mean? I broadcast, but just broadcasting is fun to watch. So yeah. I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be great going forward. Next week is Kansas. Totally different track. It's like there's one line, and it's not what you would think. It's you want to be on the high side on Kansas. Who are you looking for there to be strong, or who besides yourself, of course? I mean, you could pick yourself if you wanted to, but
yeah. Well, as far as myself goes, I love Kansas. Really fast there. I've won that race in other leagues. I don't know if the competition is as fierce as it is we have this season, but always looking at Alex Healy, Bobby Hall Jr. Of course, they're always up there.
Yeah.
But we got some other fast drivers too. I mean, Gordon Spain has been fast at Las Vegas. I remember racing with him a little bit. Chris Phillips is always there. Oh, Stephen Shue in Foothills.
Yeah.
Ledford was really fast at Indianapolis. So we could have some new players up in the top 5. I hope to be there myself, of course.
Yeah, I think, aside from our regular guys, like Chris, both Chris's, Barker and Phillips, Bobby Hall, those guys, I'm actually looking for Bobby Grady. I think he's going to be good here. I think he's got just the right amount of aggression and he's got skills, and so I think Bobby Grady is going to kind of shock us. Hopefully I didn't just jinx him.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to show us what he's got, and we'll see. It's going to be good. It's going to be Wednesday night, 6:30 Central, or actually 6:45 is when we'll go live. And it's going to be on the SRN on YouTube. It's we are now live on Facebook, Twitch, and Kick, so you can watch it anywhere you want. Let's go through the top 10 of our drivers, though, just real quick, just to kind of give people an update on points. So Bobby Hall is leading. Alex Healy is in second. Chris Barker's in third. Chris Phillips is in fourth. Wes Wigan's got fifth. Bobby Grady sixth. Dan Worthington is in seventh. And Gordon Spain eighth. John Schuenbachler is ninth. And Matt Granier is 10th. So some good competition up there. I'm surprised that Matt Granier is in 10th. He didn't start until, I think, 3 races into the season. And so he's done very well in the races he's been in.
Yeah, there's actually a 3-way tie for 10th, I believe. I think it's between Grenier, Ledford, and myself, actually, in my rough, unlucky season here. So
yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to some IMSA. Now, we don't have any racing in IMSA until next month, unfortunately. But there's some few things that you were looking at over the over this off time for them, and let's hear some about that.
Yeah, real quick. I don't want us to go on for too long here, but there's some little piece of news that I'm interested in. It's related to the Aston Martin Valkyrie. That is going to be the new entry for GTP in IMSA, and also the hypercar class in World Endurance Championship. So the Valkyrie, the Aston Martin GTP car, is unique. It's a 6.5 liter V12 Cosworth engine. So it sounds a little different. We all love the Cadillac for being so loud and gravelly and gnarly sounding, but the Aston Martin itself, an unmuffled V12, sounds insane. It's done a lot of testing, about 15,000 kilometers, of testing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this car debut in the North America at Sebring, 12-hour Sebring.
Yeah.
And that's on March, let's see, I'm getting the date here. March 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So y'all should check that out if you're into the sports car racing.
And I know, sometimes it's hard to find. I know Peacock covers a lot of those. I know there's some other things. YouTube covers a bunch of stuff too. But I got to tell you, forgive my ignorance, but those aren't all V12s. Like that's unique. Kind of looking forward to that, right? Like, I mean, it's like, okay, this is different, and Aston Martin is one of those names, you know what I mean, that is known worldwide. And it's like, I'm excited. They could use another manufacturer. They need some more competition in there.
Yeah. And I think the whole point of this rule system. So one interesting thing, the past few years in IMSA is trying to usher in what they keep saying, this golden age of racing. And part of that goes back to after, I think, around 2021, 2022, they developed new rules for the top class. And WEC, World Endurance Championship, and IMSA, the North American Sports Car Championship, are converging the rule sets. So they're bringing the rule sets together so that this hypercar class, cars from either IMSA or World Endurance Championship, can compete against each other. And so now we have the Valkyrie, which is developed with the World Endurance Championship spec in mind, is actually competing in IMSA. So it makes it so that these teams can truly go international, and IMSA and World Endurance Championship are more aligned. And I think it's making some really exciting racing. There could be, a Ferrari in the Daytona 24, a Ferrari GTP car in Ferrari 24 in the future, just because these rules help these teams do that. So it ushers in more competition between these manufacturers, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's because you're seeing this sport really take off, at least in the U.S. I mean, I think this has been popular overseas for a long time, but in the U.S., this is really starting to gain popularity, and I think that is starting to bring more money to the sport, and so more people are willing to get into it, more people want in, and I really think the sky's the limit for them. I don't want to say people are disinfected from NASCAR, you know what I mean, or just they're switching over, but it's just more to watch. It just gives race fans something else to see, and it's different, and that's why I've been picking it up, and why I like watching it is because it's totally different. It's something I really enjoy racing in sim, and so to watch them do it in the real world just gives you more information and is entertaining.
Yeah, for me, I think iRacing really brought me into the sport just a few years ago. So I'm kind of new myself, kind of learning all these things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the sim racing world and also the renaissance and I think an interest in motorsports, part of it can be, at least in North America, directed towards, the success of, Formula One and that Netflix series and everyone like getting pumped and then, you watch Formula One, but then you get curious, like what else is out there? And
Hmm.
I think that is kind of trickled into IMSA as well. Um,
Yeah, I would
yeah,
say even more so than people going from like NASCAR to this IMSA is like Formula going to IMSA. And the reason I say that is I feel like F1 has gotten entirely too regulated and like I want to say drawn out. You know what I mean? The seasons are, I don't want to say predetermined, but it just seems like there's a pecking order, where
right.
there's always been this team order thing where it's like this is the guy that wins and this is the guy's support, and there's I think some people just kind of exhausted with it a little bit, and they're like, hey, this is crazy out here because these guys just race, like they don't,
Yeah,
there's no team orders, they're just out there to bang doors and race as hard as they can, and they don't follow in line, and they, you know what I mean, they make moves, and so I just think it's fun and entertaining to watch.
absolutely. And yeah, Formula One is all about, the package you receive as a driver from your constructor, and that kind of sets a tone for seasons. And a lot of times, cars get in a slump and they don't ever recover from it. They're always terrible the whole season. One
Yeah.
interesting, to bring it back to IMSA though, one interesting thing about the Valkyrie, it has a small connection to Formula One. It was originally based on a road car, like a supercar for Aston Martin. And it was designed by the legendary F1 designer Adrian Newey, who's responsible for that monster of a 2023 Red Bull car that won just about every race,
Hmm.
and some championships, at I believe McLaren, but definitely some championships at Red Bull. So
Yeah.
there is that sort of Adrian Newey touch to the Aston Martin Valkyrie. It makes it that much more
And that alone
special.
could be bringing some people from Formula. It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
success over there. Now he's doing this. Oh, well, let's check that out.
Uh-huh, absolutely. Yeah, one interesting thing, kind of getting off the topic here, but Adrian Newey, um, you know, moving into Aston Martin Formula One team too. So, if you're a fan of Formula One, be interesting to see where Aston Martin in that space is moving and headed towards. As far as the Valkyrie goes, though, in IMSA, the founders of the team that's running it, the Heart of Racing team, founded by Ian James and a billionaire investor, Gabe Newell. Actually, he's a tech guy. I got early, started in Microsoft when it was still young as a co-founder, and now he owns Steam, the video
Yeah.
game library Windows system.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the Heart of Racing, founded by those two. Uh, yeah,
It's cool.
where was I going with that? I forgot.
I don't know. I think you said it.
Just escape.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
interesting though
yeah.
that the people that are coming into this and are doing this, are just it's just wow. It's like the a guy runs Steam and and by the
Yeah,
way, let's go racing, and it's like the names that this is starting to bring in is encouraging. It means that it's going to be around for a while because these people that have money and have won in Formula and done other things, they're gonna keep the sport alive. They have the money, they have the pockets, to keep it going.
right.
And I don't even think that they really need it that much anymore because I think you're going to start to see fan bases really start picking up. I think you're going to start seeing IMSA on major networks, not just on the Peacock streaming. You might see it on NBC pretty soon. Obviously, there's lots of contracts to work out and all that stuff, but yeah, I mean, I think it could. I think it could really, really benefit these networks to start picking this up, especially when you have, different sports, especially like the NFL trying to do all these weird things where they are on a bunch of different things. Look at NASCAR's doing it, where it's like all the Xfinity races are on CW. Like, who the
Right.
hell watches CW? You know what I mean? And who even pays for that service? You know, it's got to be on one of the things you have. But they're trying to do all these things, these other sports are, to widen their grasp. And I think that's gonna create some holes and open some doors for these guys to get on some bigger networks.
Yeah, that's one of my main criticism of IMSA is perhaps that they don't make it accessible to the American audience as easily. I think Peacock, the coverage is pretty good, but you got to deal with a lot of, there's what I like to call fluff filler pieces that
Yeah.
they kind of, I guess they try to baby the audience in a way. Maybe
Yeah. Well, and the other
think
thing
they
is,
might get bored with racing.
yeah,
You
the
gotta
other
show 'em something.
the other thing with those streaming services is they run commercials like randomly. It'll just pop up an ad, like, okay, you've been watching X amount of time, you got to watch 90 seconds worth of commercials, and unless you pay for like their ultimate package or whatever. But it's always at the wrong time, man. It's always when there's a battle going on. It's like, damn it, But
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's IMSA's fault or if it's just the fact that like those networks want too much money and they're just not there yet,
Right. Well, one reason why the Peacock coverage bothers me so much is because if you don't live in the United States, you can access IMSA.tv and watch the live stream commercial free with the international radio feed
Yeah.
attached to the cameras, and that is a far superior viewing experience, in my opinion. But it's not available in the United States. I mean, there are ways you can use a VPN and still access that, but to the regular person who is just watching sports or watching racing, they're not going to take the time to do something like that. So it does limit access to IMSA.
I think it was at the 24-hour race. I mean, I was watching on board from IMSA.com on I think it was the 64 car of Multimatic Motorsports, the Mustang, yeah. And you can watch it. Now, I don't know if that was just a one-time thing for that race or what. We'll see what happens when the next one happens. But you can get that. But okay, now you're just watching a roof cam, no commentary. You're just seeing that car, so not as exciting. Now there was like 9 of them. You can switch back and forth when there's battles and whatnot, but you're just not getting the information. You're just watching the race. So
right.
It'll come along. I'm sure it'll get there. So
if you want to be a fan of Heart of Racing and their Aston Martins, they have a GTD, and I think they have a GTD Pro car, and that's kind of where, that's their core part of their racing. And now they've got this new GTP car, but don't look for it to be very competitive. Sebring, they just did a test. That car is 2.5 seconds off the time, but it's a brand new car. They need more time. They have, at least on the IMSA side, they have some Roman DeAngelis and Ross Gunn are going to take over that car, and they have lots of experience in the GT cars, the GT3 cars. But I believe this is their first ride in the GTPs. So there's going to be some learning going on. But those 2 drivers from IMSA are actually going to move over to the World Endurance Championship and compete in the 24-hour Le Mans entries with that car. So there will be a 007 all British drivers entry for the 24
I love
hours
that 007. That's so funny.
Yeah. So Ross Gunn will join that team, and then DeAngelis will join the other entry, the 009 car at the Le Mans 24-hour race. Yeah.
It should be interesting. And, you talk about the learning curve, and they're all going to have that. I mean, look at Multimatic Sports last year. They were off pace. They didn't really have it. But, they come back to the Daytona 24 this year and they win it, and so it's just, it takes a year or two sometimes. And you got to expect that, but still exciting to see these guys getting into the sport. We'll see what kind of success they have and how quickly they pick up, but just good to have more people out there.
Yeah, I'm going to be keeping my eye on them. I'm very interested in this new car.
Yeah. What else we got? Anything?
No, nothing here.
Okay, cool. Okay, so coming up, right, we have Kansas for the SRN on Wednesday, 6:45 p.m. Central. Tune in on whatever streaming platform for Southern Racing Network. On Thursday, we actually have our first race of the season for our GT3 series. That's the same time, 6:45 p.m. We'll be going live. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're off to Atlanta in NASCAR, right? So on our next episode, we will be covering those things, and breaking down what happened in those, and then looking forward to the next week. So hopefully you guys join us. We'll see y'all next time.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Take care. Follow all the socials.
Yeah,
Follow
for
'em.
sure.